on triple negative breast cancer as well as other subtypes. And then I also do some work in racial disparities, really trying to close the gaps in clinical outcomes between blacks and whites with breast cancer.
Fantastic. And that just leads us right into what I've been dying to ask you for a while. What is it? And we got to get it. We really have to understand. So why do the blacks tend to have it worse than whites when it comes to cancer? Of any kinds, but specifically breast cancer.
So, a lot of it is still unknown, to be honest with you, but there is a large part of differences in access to healthcare, differences in, how patients are treated when they do come to medical attention. For instance, blacks in the US and certainly worldwide are known to have a higher incidence of lack of insurance, underinsurance, and so they will not necessarily be able to access healthcare to the degree that their counterpart whites do. There are also other things such as differences in medical knowledge and education. So if a woman has a lump, for instance, maybe not really understanding that this needs to present to medical attention for evaluation. Also, among our women, we do find, particularly in Africa, we do find a lot of denial. So, if there is a suspicion of cancer, nobody really likes to say the C word. There's neglect, and invariably cancer that is not treated will spread and eventually will kill, leading to bad outcomes. So while there's a large part of it being differences in access to care, social demographics, there are also differences in genomics as well as genetics as well as tumor biology, which is being actively investigated. Nobody really knows why those differences exist. There's been all sorts of postulations such as differences in inflammation in the body leading to perhaps higher risk of developing triple negative breast cancer. There's some research looking at differences in obesity, differences in the endocrine milieu. So a woman developing, starting her periods much earlier, stopping periods much later, so going through menopause or the change of life much later. Also differences in breastfeeding. And all these kind of have a part to play in, risk factors for aggressive breast cancers.
Yeah, that's very interesting, especially when you talk about the social cultural effects. Like you just mentioned, many people have this misplaced religious practice, religious mindsets where they just think it can't happen to me. It's not my portion. That's a very common phrase. And they keep on believing or praying that it's going to go away, even if they find a lump or something like that, and they don't do anything about it, and it gets worse and worse and worse and becomes much more difficult to treat. But still, there are also another thing with the whole disparity. Maybe not as much. Well, it's not as much in Nigeria. I would say, the poverty aspect, and just the whole idea that there's such a lack of health. Access to healthcare centers around the country. Yes. People don't really always have access to it. But even when they do have access to it, I remember one of my staff, unfortunately she's dead now, but she discovered a lump into the hospital, and they gave her a bill of 50 million naira to treat breast cancer. And she's like, where's she going to get that from? We tried to help her too with some things that we could do, and she all went outside to other places, I guess traditional healers and all that. She got some relief, but eventually came back and it killed her. So that is a problem because apparently, and you are the shall we say the top of the food chain. So you have access to all the top care equipment and the pills and the chemotherapy and everything else, and also there's insurance to pay for your services. So many people in Africa, Nigeria especially, don't have that kind of access. Well, is there anything, and I know you from time to time you come to Nigeria to give talks and see what you can do to bridge that gap. But what are some of the things that we can learn from what you're doing?
There is still, a whole lot we can do, even in low resource communities. For instance, mammograms have been documented time and time again to save lives. And so if you imagine if a woman, a community is getting regular screening once a year, mammograms, or even once every other year, which, some other communities recommend, this will likely lead to detection of breast cancers when they are at very early stages and more curable and need less intense and, if you will, less sophisticated treatments. And so in low resource settings, screening, really in all settings, but particularly in low resource settings, screening is essential to improving outcomes of patients with breast cancer. So if a cancer is detected at a very early stage and is the garden variety type of breast cancer being fed off estrogens, most of the time a woman would need surgery, perhaps radiation, depending on the type of surgery, and may just need, a 5-year course of anti-estrogen therapy and no chemotherapy, no targeted treatment. But of course, if that cancer is left to fester and is not detected at an early stage and progresses to stage, 2 or 3, then of course the interventions will become much more sophisticated and perhaps out of reach for the common man in Nigeria and in other low resource settings. So mammograms are absolutely key.
And from your experience of going back and forth, how have you seen a growth in the accessibility to mammograms around the country in Nigeria?
Oh, I think, it's easily accessible now and certainly affordable. I don't know how much it costs currently, but it is within the reach of the common man. You can easily get a mammogram, in many large centers, many large cities, and perhaps also smaller cities in Nigeria as well. So, education, and really getting the word out to women over the age of 40, you should be getting a screening mammogram at least once every other year, if not every year. If your risk is higher and you have a strong family history of breast and or ovarian cancer, then you should probably be getting a mammogram every year at least.
Okay. That's a very good point. We also want to talk about what they can do to check themselves. Obviously, the whole breast examination, and people can go online to understand how to do those tests. But what are some of the things that would make one suspect she has breast cancer?
So yeah, that's a very good question. In early stages, most of the time, a woman might not even have any symptoms.
Right.
The commonest symptom, of course, is a lump in the breast, a lump that was not there before. So that's why we recommend breast self-awareness, not necessarily breast examination, because, most women are not part of the medical field and they don't necessarily know what to look for or how to do breast examinations, but just be aware of how your breasts feel and look, so that if there's a change, to bring this to medical attention. So practicing breast self-awareness, and if there's a change, a lump, dimpling, looking like an orange peel, nipple discharge or bleeding, then certainly bring that to medical attention. But again, most of the time, particularly for early stages, there's actually no symptom or no lump. There might just be changes detected on mammogram. But of course, as things progress, the cancer cells get bigger, grow, then a woman might feel a lump.
Now, one of the things that they point out a lot is that black women tend to have much denser breasts than white women. Is that a factor in all this?
Yes, that is a factor. So it could be a little bit more difficult to detect smaller cancers on mammograms, but it's still absolutely possible. And, despite the fact that black women tend to have denser breasts than whites, you can still feel a lump. And, certainly some people have very lumpy breasts, but if there's a change from what is normal for you, then you should bring that to medical attention.
Take us, when a person comes to you with breast cancer and it's black or white, I think about it with regards to hypertension. So if I were a cardiologist, black person comes to me with hypertension, I obviously would not give them ACE inhibitors. I would give them, my first thought would be calcium channel blockers, because statistically and research-wise, calcium channel blockers work better with blacks than whites, and of course ACE inhibitors work better with whites. Is there that same kind of thinking in breast cancer treatment?
Not really, not particularly. So, medications work equally well in blacks or whites. As long as you take the medication, it should work. So we don't really have separate systemic therapies or surgical procedures according to race. As long as a woman gets the, recommended and usual standard of care, that is what is proven to be effective.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the triple negative. Black women are twice as likely, is that true, to have triple negative than white people are?
Certainly much more likely, yes, absolutely.
All right. We don't know why, like you said, but tell us about triple negative and why that's such a big deal.
So, every breast cancer is different. There's so many subtypes of breast cancer. Triple negative breast cancer is one of the more aggressive subtypes, if perhaps not the most aggressive subtype of breast cancer that we see in clinic. And it means that the cancer is ER negative, estrogen receptor negative, PR negative, progesterone receptor negative, and HER2 negative. So in very simple terms, it is not estrogen fed and not HER2 driven. So those targeted therapies we use as anti-estrogens and anti-HER2 treatments do not apply. And so what we have in our toolbox for those women is really chemotherapy. Triple negative breast cancer, the early stages have a higher chance of returning as metastatic disease, particularly within the first 2 years after they're diagnosed. So that's kind of the danger period for those women. Certainly a much higher risk of returning than other cancers that are estrogen fed. And when they do return, they're more difficult to treat as metastatic disease versus the other subtypes, and more likely would lead to a woman's death within the first 2 to 3 years of diagnosis of metastatic disease.
So, comes a diagnosis, she has a diagnosis of triple negative, you treat her, and then after 2 years, there's a great likelihood it's going to return. And once she returns with metastatic disease, in another 2 years, she's dead.
Yes, that's about the average survival, unfortunately, with metastatic triple negative breast cancer. With treatment, it's about 2.5 years. It has improved over the last 5 years from about 12 to 18 months. We've doubled the survival, but clearly there's still so much work that needs to be done for these women. So again, in order to prevent metastatic disease, finding breast cancer very early would most likely lead to a full cure and avoid metastatic disease down the line. That's why it's so important for our women to have these screening mammograms to detect breast cancer early to avoid eventual, ultimately fatal metastatic disease.
My goodness, that's the most depressing. I'm almost going to end this show now and go and cry somewhere. But okay, your triple negative is not the number one cause. It's not the most aggressive. Which one is the most aggressive?
Well, so triple negative, I would say, is the most aggressive now. So there are 3 basic clinical subtypes of breast cancer. There's the garden variety one that is estrogen fed, usually not that aggressive, more common. And then there's the triple negative, very aggressive, but still curable if it's detected early. And there's HER2 positive, which is also quite aggressive. However, things have changed for people with HER2 positive disease because we now have anti-HER2 treatments, which are extremely effective and have, changed the natural history of HER2 positive breast cancer. So it's an aggressive subtype if you don't have the benefit of getting the anti-HER2 treatments. But if you do have the benefit of those anti-HER2 treatments, then it's no longer that aggressive. And triple negative, is the number one in terms of aggressiveness.
I see. So with HER2, you found a pretty good solution.
Yes.
With triple negative, you have not. You're still trying to figure out what's the best treatment. So it varies from oncologist to oncologist.
Yeah, so what we have to, I mean, we do have tools in our toolbox for those women. Um, Again, I cannot overemphasize that the early stages of even triple negative breast cancer, most patients are cured. However,
Right.
for those patients who are not cured and suffer a relapse or recurrence down the line, we can still treat them with palliative treatments, but ultimately the cancer takes their lives. So we have treatments, but they're not as good as the other clinical subtypes of breast cancer.
All right. So some of the things we mentioned were about prevention, or some of the causes was inflammation. So high levels of inflammation, poor lifestyle, no breastfeeding. Some things you can avoid, other things you can. I mean, if you didn't breastfeed, I mean, if you never had a child, then is that an advantage if you had children but you didn't breastfeed them, as opposed to if you never had children so you didn't have to breastfeed? Is there a difference between the two of them?
Well, so in general, risk factors for breast cancer include, starting your periods very early, going through menopause very late, not having any pregnancy, or having a pregnancy at a very late age, which is happening more and more now in our communities due to education, not
Right.
breastfeeding, alcohol, obesity, taking hormone replacement therapy to sort of battle the symptoms of, menopause, things like that. Aging, of course, female sex is the number one risk factor. There are genetics. So having a strong family history of breast or ovarian cancer, sometimes having a genetic mutation known as the BRCA1 or 2 gene in one's family, as well as a variety of other things.
But how about if they've never had breast cancer before? They just found out they have the BRCA mutation, and they said take it out. There's no trace of breast cancer there. Do you know of any that actually developed breast cancer, gone on to develop breast cancer?
Not off the top of my head, although it is possible, again, because there's still some little bit of residual breast tissue in the chest wall. But for those women, we've seen time and time again from multiple studies that it certainly reduces the risk of developing breast cancer by a very, very large amount.
Got it. Still not going to happen much in Nigeria, I don't think, but it's good to know.
It's not happening though. I have talked to several people, several Nigerians, believe it or not, who've opted for bilateral mastectomies because they've had known BRCA mutations, which, genetic testing is becoming more widespread now, although it's still difficult to, access in low resource places, but there are places where you can get a kit mailed to you, pay some money and then get the results, do a saliva test, saliva buccal swab, and send that back, and the results will be mailed to you. So, people are becoming more and more aware. Medicine is becoming more and more global.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought. Interesting. Okay, good. Well, Dr. BC, this has been very, very illuminating. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. But before I let you go, do you have any final words to share with our millions and millions of viewers?
I cannot overemphasize that a woman over the age of 40 should be getting screening mammograms at least every other year, if not once a year. Screening mammograms have been shown to reduce late-stage breast cancer, detect breast cancer when it is very early and most curable. And also, if women should practice breast self-awareness. So if there's a change in how their breasts usually look and feel, they should immediately bring it to medical attention for evaluation.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Thank you so much again. I wish you all the best in your research and in life as a whole. And stay safe and healthy during this period.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure speaking with you.
Same here. Thank you. Well, folks, that's it. That does it for now. Please share this video. The videos are going to be on our website. BetterBettingFoundation.org is going to be on the NTA website as well. This is a very, very important topic. Remember, I said at the beginning that breast cancer is the number one cancer killer in Nigeria. It is the most common cancer worldwide. A lot of people are concerned about breast cancer. Another thing a lot of people should be concerned about too is Alzheimer's disease, and we're going to be going into that more and more in the coming months. So please remember to stay tuned on our platforms. You can subscribe and like our videos so we can continue to spread the word. The federal government, like I said, has mandated us really to share this, to bring this education to you wherever you are, whether in the villages or in the cities, so that you can make the right decisions, take the right actions concerning your health, and therefore hopefully live a long, healthier life. So till we see again, God bless. Take care. Bye.
I'm actually a passionate baker. I don't rest until everything is done. When I entered university, anytime I'm broke, I'll make cupcakes and go and sell to the other students. Decorating cake it's an artistic thing, and art is, dynamic.
Join us on Baker's Road every Thursday on the network service on the NTA. Baker's Road, celebrating creativity. Don't miss it.
Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation, with cultural and media influence throughout the entire continent. But it's facing a conservation crisis. Its wildlife and national parks are highly endangered by poaching and illegal logging. It's the epicenter of the illegal trade in ivory and pangolin scales, with tons of product representing thousands of animals seized in recent times by customs. It has strong demand for illegal bushmeat that endangers animals and risks introduction of zoonotic disease. But Nigeria could be a conservation leader. With Lagos leading the way, Nigeria is updating its wildlife legislation. It's improving its wildlife law enforcement, and it's revolutionizing its public awareness. WADA and its Nigerian partners are launching the largest ever conservation awareness program in Africa to drastically increase coverage of wildlife issues. Working with government agencies, working with the media, working with prominent Nigerian ambassadors.
Report suspicious activity and wildlife crime.
To promote Nigeria's national parks. To promote wildlife law enforcement. To raise awareness of the dangers of illegal bushmeat. And to promote alternatives. Nigeria can go from crisis to becoming a leader in conservation.
So let's do the right thing. Tell your family and friends to say no to illegal bushmeat.
Keep them wild, keep them wild. Keep them wild, keep us safe, and keep us safe.
This week on Executive Discourse.
The impression that I got before I became DGNT was that President Obasanjo was not reachable. Alright? You couldn't really reach him, you couldn't even talk to him, and he doesn't listen, he just shouts at you and all of that. So they created that fear in everybody. But on getting to NTA, I discovered that it was direct opposite. Yes, it's direct opposite. Each time the president wanted to do something, and I gave reasons for why it would not work for NTA, he conceded.
Interesting.
That shocks me. That, oh, you mean this person can concede?
The person who was said not to be
Yes,
reachable.
you mean he can concede.
When you are fasting, you are trying to be closer to God. You are trying to tell God that, yes, I am your child.
I was commanded to obey my mother and worship God and to establish prayers. They are a place that when you come with reverence.
We should tell the believing women that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty.
Until when we meet next time, same station and same time, my name still Imam Wada DM.
Nigerian development partners to deepen cooperation as D8 conference opens in Abuja. Bank charges for cash deposits is suspended with immediate effect as central bank to redesign new series of bank and notes. And on global stocks, Hang Seng rebounds slightly as Asia markets rise. Plus, oil prices stable as rising U.S. crude stocks balance supply concerns. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us on Business. I'll start by telling you that a coalition of developing countries comprising Nigeria, Bangladesh, Egypt, Indonesia, Iran, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Turkey, called the D8, have unanimously agreed to adopt the policy of leaving no one behind by creating a platform for access to networking opportunities, market, business linkages, knowledge sharing, and technology exchanges, among others, to benefit member states. This was at the opening of a two-day forum of member states in Abuja.
Agenda. It has therefore become imperative for D8 member states to jointly address the above issues with a view to taking advantage of the global markets and realignments. There are several windows that can be opened to enable member states share experiences towards creating an enabling environment for MSMEs to operate.
Trade in health for enhanced equitable access to pharmaceutical products for the most vulnerable population.
Our country is strong in trade of pharmaceuticals and medical devices and is willing to cooperate with the D8 countries on the health system and equipment. We will be happy to share our know-how in healthcare.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has made a strong case for increased Korean investment in Nigeria's economy as the government sustains efforts towards improving the enabling environment for businesses to flourish. This was while granting audience to captains of strategic industrial concerns in the Republic of Korea on the margins of the World Bio Summit. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has the details.
As of 2021, there are at least 20 Korean companies registered and doing business in strategic areas of priority across the Nigerian economy, thereby contributing significantly to the nation's GDP and creating job opportunities. At this meeting are some of the CEOs of such companies.
Nigeria is most important country as well as strategic market to our company, and we expand our business more actively in Nigeria.
Hyundai Heavy Industry Group has been continuing its business relationship with Nigeria, especially in oil and gas sector since early 2000, and such relationship had reinforced by carrying out nearly $10 billion worth of business in areas of shipbuilding, offshore, and plant construction.
There is a lot for us to handshake with our two nations. Nigeria is ready for business and Nigeria is ready for Korean investment.
For President Muhammadu Buhari, this engagement provides an opportunity to not only show appreciation for their trust and confidence in Nigeria's economy, but solicit for more of such investments in other critical economic sectors that can be mutually beneficial to both Nigeria and the Republic of Korea.
Nigeria remains committed to creating a stable and enabling business environment for foreign investors. I implore you, therefore, to take advantage of the many investment opportunities in Nigeria, especially in the areas of oil and gas, trade manufacturing, ICT, creative industries, and culture exchange.
He said with a nominal GDP of $431.9 billion, the Africa's largest economy, which also offers low corporate tax regime, value-added tax rates, flexible labor market conditions, and simple procedures for establishing businesses, is indeed a very attractive investment destination.
I look forward to increased investments by Korean private companies in Nigeria as we continue to make determined efforts to improve the enabling environment for business to flourish.
With the changed fiscal environment, today, we are one of the most competitive business environment in the world in terms of the energy sector, and these opportunities are started coming up. Our most recent engagement has shown that Korean companies are taking interest in what we're doing. After these meetings, we will continue to engage, and that will bring investment and will certainly paying up.
President Muhammadu Buhari also held a separate meeting with a group from Samsung Heavy Industries led by its president and chief executive officer J.T. Jung.
With the dwindling oil revenue in Nigeria, there is nothing left now rather than to see how we can reactivate and open new frontier and windows where we have multiple sources of revenue and source of income that we can develop our own country. The issue of blue economy is the key. Our presence here open doors. We discuss intensively with Samsung industry on our requirement.
Part of the discussions, Mr. Jamo said, centered on the revival and development of the shipbuilding industry as well as the fishing subsector of the nation's economy. From Seoul, South Korea, Adamu Sambo.
Well, from Korea to Nigeria, we're still talking blue economy, where Nigeria is blessed with a large resource base of waterways spanning 10,000 kilometers. About 3,800 kilometers is navigable seasonally. 28 of the nation's 36 states can also be accessed through water. Nigeria can also link 5 of its neighboring countries, Benin Republic, that's in Port Novo, Equatorial Guinea, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger Republic, by water. Delta. How is Nigeria taking advantage of our inland waterways for economic development is the focus of our discussion on the program. And joining me via telephone is the Managing Director, National Inland Waterways Authority, NIWA. He is no other person but George Mogalu. You're welcome to Business Express, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good. Let's begin by you telling us how much of the inland waterway resource is Nigeria taking advantage of?
Like you rightly observed from your opening comments, we have over 10,000 kilometers of inland waterways within the country, of which, like you rightly also observed, slightly over 3,000 kilometers is only navigable. You're also correct when you said that we can access 28 states by water. And this, everyone knows, is a great resource. It's a matter of to what extent have we developed it, and to what extent are we going to take advantage of the economic potentials. We haven't done much, I must acknowledge, in all sincerity, because the 10,000 kilometers is open for us to develop and take full advantage of. But it's a work in progress. A lot is also being done, trying to open up these channels, maintain the already opened up channels, so that we can put it to effective use and move cargo and persons within our country to the full benefit of the resource that God has given out to us as a nation.
Well, having acknowledged that it's a work in progress, I want to also us to talk about the 65% of Nigeria-bound containers that end up in the southeast. Tell us what NIWA is doing to minimize the congestion in the Lagos port. What is the abundant alternatives that we have?
Yes, we are doing quite a lot in this regard, because I acknowledge that for us to really decongest our ports, remove the pressure we have on our roads, that we have to put into effective use our inland waterway potentials. I agree with you, because the volume of containers that move on our that arrive in Nigeria, containerized cargo that arrive in Nigeria, about 60-65% end up in the southeast, and that is a statement of fact. If we take an analogy, like I always do, that we have 5 million containers, just to speak, coming into the southeast, what that translates to is that 10 million containers will be on the road. 5 million trailers carrying 5 million containers, and then 5 million trailers bringing the empty containers back to the ports.
That's damage on our roads.
Our roads are not designed to carry such weight. The likelihood of our infrastructure surviving that pressure is not there. So for us in NIWA, the National Inland Waterways Authority, we consider this a major challenge. We are putting a lot in this regard to see to what extent we can put into effective use the openings we have within the water channels to be able to move these containers rather than by road, move them by water. We have engaged the key players, the actors in the field, and they are all agreeing with us, and they are all buying into it. We've done experimental movement of these containers just to break that jinx, and it has worked. We have also seen where the difficulties are. We are talking with the Navy and other security agencies with regards to addressing the issue of security challenge, so that we can be able to remove all those fears. We as an organization have engaged the badge owners, because we intend to use the badges that will move these consignments. And we need to get the buy-in of the badge owners. And I'm happy to say that we have engaged them, and they share the same sentiments we have, that there is need for us to put into effective use this water resource. So we have engaged them, we have talked with the badge owner, we've talked to the Importers Association, because it is the owner of the goods that determines where his consignment is taken to. So we have also engaged them. We've talked with the Chambers of Commerce, both of Onitsha. We're about to talk with that of Lagos, so that we can get everybody to have a buy-in. Because the moment we are able to do this, and then containers start moving, we will help in decongesting the port in Lagos, we'll remove the pressure on our roads and save our basic infrastructure.
Well, talking about utilizing this great resource, information here is that you have successfully handed over the Onitsha port to concessionaires. Tell us about the progress there and also the state of other concessioning of the Ogota, Lokoja, and the Barrow ports. Is that still ongoing too?
Yes, for us, Onitsha River Port is our poster boy. We've been able to conclude the process. We'll hand it over to the preferred bidder, the Universal Elysium Consortium, with their technical partners, the Port of Antwerp. As we speak now, their managers from Port of Antwerp are around in Onitsha River Port, managing the port as we speak now. And it's one thing I'm happy about, because one, it's a fulfillment of a program, of a designed PPP arrangement program. And that's why we say it's our poster boy. And we've tested that and it's working well. They've started, but they still require a little more time to be able to fully consolidate and be able to put the port into full use. The businessmen, the business community in the southeast in Onitsha are quite appreciative of what we've done, and most of them are keen into it. And because we believe very strongly in the potentials of that port, and with the expertise of the Port of Antwerp, coupled with the preferred bidder, who is their partner, I'm sure that we're going to actually actualize our desired objective, which is to make that port a viable port, a port of destination, a port that will impact very positively on the economy, not only of the southeast, but of the nation. Then, having said that, we have received, like I did say earlier in my previous interview, we've received unsolicited proposals from various interested PPP players for the management, for the construction, for the local general river port, that's under construction, and you go to river port that is still also under construction. I'm happy to say that a lot of people have shown interest and we are engaging them. We have also solicited proposals for those who are interested in managing taking over the Barrow River Port. Like you know, Barrow River Port has been fully completed. It's a world-class port with all the needed equipment all in place. That one we're also talking with the various groups that are showing interest. We're going to follow the process. Get the ICRC involved, get the ministry involved, get everybody involved, do what is right. At the end of the day, whoever is beneficiary will not take over the port and run it. We're looking at a situation where the private sector expertise is brought in to help in growing this industry.
This is good news. If I may ask, what is happening to the opening up of Lake Chad waterways? Is that also part of the plans, or is it in progress?
Yes, we just concluded a survey. The first phase survey of the Lake Chad axis, and then as we speak now, the second phase of the survey is ongoing, like in some other locations in the country. So before you now think of opening up a channel, you must do first of all the survey, have your survey report so that you can be guided before you think about dredging and opening up any channel.
Thank you so very much, Managing Director Niwa George Mogalu, for giving us insight as to what is happening around the blue economy of Nigeria.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Well, moving on, the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission has concluded arrangements to start the process for carrying out the review of the remuneration for political, public, and judicial office holders in the country. The chairman of the commission, Mohammed Bello Shehu, stated this during a courtesy visit to the chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum, Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State, in his office in Abuja recently. Mohammed Bello pointed that pursuant to the functions of the Commission in paragraph 32D of Part 1 to the third schedule of 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, empowers the Commission to determine the remuneration appropriate to the political office and judicial office holders in the country, informing that the last time the review was carried out was 2008, which makes it even overdue for review. And federal government has identified sites for development of more hydropower plants along the Benue River Basin and Niger River. Minister of Power Abubakar Aliu says this is in line with Nigeria's energy transition plan to diversify renewable energy sources towards achieving net zero gas emission. Joshua Jito has that.
Nigeria currently has 4 hydropower plants generating 2,380 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. For a country with huge hydropower potential, this resource is underutilized. The government is having a rethink set to take full advantage of this natural endowment. New sites for small, medium and large hydropower plants identified in Taraba, Adamawa, Benue, Anambra and Kogi states, with studies carried out. While the conversation continues among hydropower experts on the need to construct more dams for electricity generation, Minister of Power Abubakar Aliyu, represented at the dialogue, says 3 new hydropower plants already completed and will soon be connected to the national grid.
The federal government is, in recent times, is embarking on several hydropower projects which are at various levels of development in order to harness hydro resources in the country. Among these are today 700 megawatts. This will be commissioned by first quarter of 2023.
The generation capacity in the country is low. So if we can take other sources of energy, maybe it's like solar, like biomass, and all that, and also add hydro, which is a major base load, it will be good for this country.
Nigeria's energy transition at inclusive growth through renewable energy and hydropower generation is the theme of the conference. Joshua Ojito.
Oil prices were broadly stable on Wednesday, moving in and out of negative territory after industry data showed U.S. crude stockpiles rose more than expected last week, though supply concerns and a weaker dollar give support. Brent crude futures for December were up 0.1% at $93.64 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures for December were up 0.4% at $85.69 a barrel. And still talking energy, Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas Limited says Nigeria's consumption of gas has increased by over 1,000% in the last 14 days. The assertion was made by the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, NLNG, Dr. Philip Michel Bila, at the conference of Nigerian Liquefied Petroleum Gas Association held in Lagos. The MD said NLPGA and NLNG's intervention had seen the supply of LPG go from 60,000 metric tons in 2007 to over 1 million metric tons. Let's take a trip to the commodities market. It's now time to join NECA for updates on global stocks.
Hello and welcome to the Global Market Review. Global stocks scaled a 5-week high on Wednesday, lifted by growing hopes that the pace of U.S. interest rate hikes could soon start to slow. European markets were unsteady with corporate earnings season in full swing. The French CAC was down 0.08%, UK FTSE also depreciated by 0.51%, while in Germany the DAX was up 0.41%. Stocks in Asia rose Wednesday as sentiment overnight improved. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was up 1% after 3 consecutive negative sessions. In mainland China, the Shanghai Composite added 0.78% to 2,999.50, while in Japan, the Nikkei 225 was up 0.67%. US stock futures fell after disappointing third quarter results from Alphabet and weak revenue guidance from Microsoft marked a foreboding start to big technology earnings this week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average futures fell by 28 points. S&P 500 also slipped 0.7% and Nasdaq 100 was down 1.7%. It was mixed trading for African markets this Wednesday. South Africa's JSE Africa 40 rose 0.89%. Namibia's overall slipped 0.14%.
Thank you, Neka. Let's now see how much the Naira is exchanging for other currencies at CBN official rate. That wraps Business Express for today. Remember to keep in touch with us, so do send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us via the various social media platforms. Business Express returns tomorrow, Thursday at 9:30 a.m.
NTA, you can't be Deutsch.
This week on Executive Discourse, the impression that I got before I became DGNT was that President Obasanjo was not reachable. Alright? You couldn't really reach him, you couldn't even talk to him, and he doesn't listen, he just shouts at you and all of that. So they created that fear in everybody. But on getting to NTA, I discovered that it was direct opposite. Yes, it's direct opposite. Each time the president wanted to do something, and I gave reasons for why it would not work for NTA, he conceded. Just like that shocks me, that you mean this person can concede.
The person who was said not to be right.
You mean he can concede.
This is the network service of the NTA.
The National Honours was instituted by Act No. 5 of 1964 and it empowers the President to honour Nigerians and friends of the country with remarkable feats every year. The year 2022 is no exception, as many Nigerians who have distinguished themselves in the service of the nation and humanity were recently honoured. The ICPC family was particularly delighted as the Honourable Chairman of the Commission, Professor Bolaji Owasonyi, SAN, and 3 directors of the Commission were among the over 400 distinguished Nigerians who received this year's national honours. Also honoured was a retired Director of Public Enlightenment in the Commission. Welcome to Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. I am your host, Hawa Thani Garba.
Fellow Nigerians, do you know that constituency projects are actually your projects? Do you know that constituency projects are funded by the federal government? Do you know that you can track release of constituency project funds for projects located in your constituency and follow up to know how they have been executed? Constituency projects happen because government does not want to leave any community out in development efforts. You have a responsibility to know what constituency project has been planned for your community, how much has been allocated for it, and whether value for money has been delivered. Take ownership of constituency projects located in your community. Protect them because they belong to you. Government knows about your needs and is planning for you. Government needs your help to ensure quality delivery. Know that constituency projects are actually your projects. Protect your constituency project. My constituency, my project.
For information on funds allocated to projects in your constituency, call 0800 2255 4272.
This message is from the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission and the National Orientation Agency.
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, this is Corruption Must Go. The tradition of conferring national honours on distinguished citizens started in 1964 during the era of Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, with the enactment of National Honours Act 5 of 1964. Since then, thousands of distinguished Nigerians have received the National Honours Award. In the 2022 National Merit Award ceremony, the Honorable Chairman of the ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasaoye, SAN, was conferred with the National Award of Officer of the Federal Republic, OFR, by President Muhammadu Buhari for his distinguished acts and service to the nation.
Professor Bolaji Owasaoye, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Congratulations to Professor Bolaji Owasaoye, SAN, OFR. 3 directors of the Commission were also honored in the rank of Member of the Order of the Federal Republic, MFR. They are Dr. Bala Mohammed, Director of Administration and Human Resources, Mrs. Victoria Toyin Ayeni, Director of Finance and Accounts, and Mr. Akim Lawal, Director of Operations. Take a look.
Bala Mohammed. Ayeni Victoria Toyin. Lawal Olawumi Akim, FSI.
Most remarkably too was the award of Member of the Order of the Niger, MON, to Mrs. Rashidat Aduni Okodua, MNI, the immediate past director, ICPC's Public Enlightenment Department, and spokesperson to the Commission, who is now retired.
Rashidat Aduni Okodua, MNI. And then the next, Barrister Absalam. Barrister Absalam.
Welcome back. Our focus is on the recent National Award to the ICPC Chairman and Directors in the Commission. Our Corruption Must Go crew sought to know from the awardees how they feel being honored by their country and their advice for upcoming ICPC staff and Nigerians in general.
It makes you feel satisfied. What's important in life is you have goals, you have objectives, you have things that will make you feel your mouth too seriously.